All right, there we are. And welcome everyone. Today I am talking about sticking with this journey for the rest of your life. So, how does that work? Because so many times we get on this roller coasters of dieting and losing and it's funny because I've said to people, I go to these conferences where they're having like these huge weight losses. These people have lost 100 pounds plus, and I said I've never done that, but I have lost 35 to 40 dozens of times. I've gained it and lost it, and that's been my journey until um December of 2020, when I finally just was like, no, this is it. This is for the rest of my life, and I'm sticking with this. And so I want to talk about this and what does it mean to stick with it for the rest of our life? It's certainly not a perfect journey. It is goes all over the place, but that doesn't mean you're off track for good. You can get off track for a little bit and different things, but it's that attitude of always coming back to this journey and sticking with it. Um, it turns out I was, thinking about addiction and how the addiction side of it is what keeps us from staying on it, because it's such a strong thing. And what is it that keeps us from being so addicted? And those are the things we're going to talk about today. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is connection. And that is really possible. Powerful. It turns out disconnection is the major driver of addiction. And I know we've talked about some of this before, Bo, so I'm just going to touch on this briefly. But whatever that addiction is, disconnection seems to be the major driver of falling back into it and falling back into old habits. We tend to think that it's the chemical hooks and the dopamine that addicts us. And of course, that plays a part. But check out this interesting study that I found that I thought was really amazing. It was actually done on rats. And, you've heard that story about the rats that were addicted to cocaine water. So they were put in this cage, um, and this empty, isolated cage, and they had nothing else to do in there but drink. And so when that was the case, they always drank the cocaine water. And because they had absolutely nothing else to do, they would get addicted to that. And all of the rats got addicted to that. So they basically said, well, given water or given cocaine water, they're always going to choose that cocaine water. And that is just what addiction is. You just keep doing it over and over. But and I don't know the name of the person who did this other study, but to test this study, he actually then put the rats in what he called rat parks, where they were, among other rats, free to roam and play, to socialize, to have sex, and do all the little things that rats do. And they were also given those same two options to drink from. Well, it turns out they rarely drank from the drug-filled bottle, and when they did, it was intermittent, it was not obsessively, and they never overdosed. Whereas the initial ones overdosed to death, basically. These rats went from almost 100% overdose when isolated to a much lower number when they had happy and connected lives. So what he hypothesized is, what if the power of success of any type of major life change is in the connection? And I believe that it is one of the biggest keys to success and continuing this way of life for the rest of our life. I've experienced it personally, and I've read countless articles confirming this. We are surrounded by our drug of choice, our drug-like foods, but having a community that is on this same journey keeps us feeling alone, and that connection is powerful. We need a tribe. We need to connect with others on this journey. Lean on each other, stay accountable to one another. It's vital. So at the same time that this rat park experiment was taking place, there was also basically a very human experiment happening at the same time, and that was the Vietnam War. And 20% of the people were using heroin on the battlefield, but when they returned home, 95% of them stopped using the heroin. Now, I feel like that flies in the face of everything we've ever heard about heroin. Like once you start heroin, you never get off it. But this was very interesting how this was playing out. I actually looked it up because I was like, is that true? Like, is that really true? And I found the research papers that said that high rates of heroin use, like 34%, and symptoms of heroin dependency, which were about 20% among US soldiers while serving in Vietnam, then that was the numbers that they had. So 34% of them were heroin dependent, and 20% among the US soldiers while serving in Vietnam. Yeah. In the first year after returning to the States, only 1% of the soldiers became re-addicted to heroin, although 10% tried the drug after they returned. But they didn't get addicted to it, which again leads to the question, the hypothesis that addiction is solely based on your drug of choice. It's not just that it's heroin and you can't get off of heroin, it's that there's something to do with this connection factor. All right, what if it's less about the chemical hooks and more about the cage? What if addiction is an adaptation to our environment? And maybe it shouldn't be called addiction at all. It should instead be called bonding, which is really fascinating when you think about it. We have a natural innate need to bond and connect. And if we can't bond with people due to isolation, due to trauma, or some other reason, we will bond with something that will give us relief. It could be gambling, it could be porn, it could be cannabis, it could be food, something. We will bond with something. But because that's our nature, that's how we were kind of created, is for bond, for connection. Which would explain why they say that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. So, to just put this in other words, most of us could afford to buy vodka, drink it all day long, but we don't. Why? Because we have things that we love, that we are bonded to, that would suffer if we did that. Okay? A core part of addiction is not being able to bear being in our present life. There's something we're needing to numb, some discomfort that we have. We think we're the most connected society ever. We think because we have Twitter and Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook and all these friends that we're connected, but that's really not connection. And a lot of times it's really not even friends, certainly not close friends. The connections we think that we have now are kind of a parody for human connection. And really, we desperately need human connection. It is so important. And we saw that through the pandemic. We saw how being disconnected, what it did to our kids, what it did to us, it was not healthy at all. It's almost a metaphor, our social media connection, to what actual connection in real life is. And then interesting, we've traded floor space for friends and connections, because they say that the amount of floor space we have in our homes has been steadily increasing. So we have larger homes, larger spaces, and less people in them. And that's just, that's just sad, when you think about it, that we are, and I find myself doing it. Like, I find myself not wanting to leave the house, not wanting to go do something. But what happens when I do is my heart is so much better. Like, I'm in such a better place, such a better headspace, such a better mindset. Anxiety lowers. All those things are just crucial to connection with other people. All right. But our life, a lot of times, can look a lot more like that isolated cage and less like the rat park. And we need it to look more like the rat park if we're going to be healthy and avoid those things that are tripping us up, those addictions that are pulling us in. because disconnection is a major driver of addiction. So that is part of it. Another thing I want to talk about is another way to think about how to stick with this long term is talking about purpose. Okay. Now, for a little bit, I kind of leaned away from the idea of purpose because I think it gets misunderstood. And I think sometimes purpose, we think of like my daughter trying to plan to go to college and what are you going to do and where are you going to be? And that's your purpose. Um, and I don't, that is not helping us. That's almost like putting a burden on us. Like you have to have a purpose. You have to know your purpose. You have to do it. But when we're dealing with, all the things that life is throwing at us, our purpose is much bigger than just this one career or this one thing I'm going to do, this one ministry. We struggle with that when it's no wonder that we struggle with feeling like we're not enough, because we feel like there's this giant purpose out there and we don't even know how to reach it. And so I feel like that's just a heavy weight and a burden. But really, that's not what purpose is even about. The definition of purpose puts that misplaced burden on us because we've pigeonholed the idea of purpose as being a life's purpose. But I prefer to think of it more along the lines of intentionally living a purposed life based on my values and goals and beliefs. Okay. I mean, I'm a coach. So, goals and legacy and impact, those are all things that I want. I want that for my clients. I want that for my friends. But I don't want to so future focused on this big life's purpose that we miss being present today. Intentionally being present, being embodied with the purposes of being the woman that God has called you to be. That is where I feel like purpose is important. It's a part of what we do, making healthy connections, protecting myself from toxic relationships, eating nutritious foods that bring life to my body, and even making room to enjoy small amounts of high quality indulgent foods occasionally. That is very different than the rush to satisfy a craving, because that is not being present and that is not peaceful. And if you are an addict that will not be able to stop, then your peace is going to be found in absolutely abstaining, because food for you is numbing. It brings temporary comfort to an impulse, but that impulse ultimately needs to be explored or simply controlled. Okay. If you can't stop your drug of choice, even when it's damaging your body, you are addicted. All right. So you're going to have to find ways to control that behavior if you want peace. But if you are like, okay, I've worked through a lot of that, and this is a situation where I can indulge in a high quality treat once in a while, then that's okay. This is your journey. You have to figure out what is going to work for you. But I think purpose plays a part in that we think about purpose as in every day. What is my purpose? What is my purpose in this present situation? What is the best way that I can do what God's called me to do and stay authentic to who He's created me to be? And that's what's purpose. And so you are going to have to decide for you long term, what does that look like? And it may be a trial and error of learning what works for you, what foods work for you, what foods are like an absolute can't even go there because you just can't stop. Then, even though it's hurting you. And, I just want to say, I said a couple times about being high quality. We need to think about those things in a way, like I don't even look at foods like the Little Debbie aisle. I don't even look at that as food. that's not food. That's not nourishment in any way, shape, or form. It's only damaging. So you've got to think about though what works for you. I wasn't there right away. It took me a while to get there. So again, this journey is going to look different for all of us. But another aspect of this is exactly what I just said. It's learning. It's learning that I know that those foods aren't good for me. I know that those foods are damaging. Over and over, I hear that what helps people with sugar and food addiction is first the knowledge. And like when I sit back and I talk to people who I've been coaching, I'm like, what has been the most helpful? And they're like, learning what this food is doing to me, learning, understanding what these food products are doing to our body. And again, I said food products because a lot of them aren't even food. Ask yourself, why don't you drink antifreeze? It might look like Kool-Aid. Why don't you drink it? Because it will harm you. Why do animals drink it? Because they don't know. They don't have a prefrontal cortex like us that has taught them that this is a bad choice to make. When you start to see these, what I call frankenfoods, as dangerous and harmful, you will be stronger to resist them. This is a part of this lifelong journey. Learn, understand what are they doing to you. The concern for weight gain or weight loss alone is not enough to deter us. Face it, ladies, it's not worked. It's not worked for me. I don't think long term it'll work for you. This is why we're in this situation. This is why our nation is in this situation. Like, diet industry is a huge billion-dollar industry. It doesn't work. Lifelong journeys, commitment, learning, growing, purpose. These are the things that work long term. We need to learn how sugars, grains, and seed oils are damaging us at a cellular level, making us sick and shortening our lives. And that will help deter us from giving into them and will help us stay on this lifelong journey. Also, future focus. Future focus is key. Delaying gratification today for the benefits it will bring tomorrow, those are keystones of freedom from the cravings of food addiction. Delaying the gratification today for the benefits it will bring tomorrow. Key parts of freedom from cravings and food addiction. Think about a woman addicted to cigarettes. She's smoked all her life, since she was an adult, since she was old enough. And how many packs a day? She's addicted. She gets pregnant. And her future focus on the health of her baby helps her quit like that. It happens time and time again. I've heard from so many different women, my mother included, the minute I found out I was pregnant, I quit smoking. Couldn't quit before that, and then started again later. But when they had that focus, they quit because her identity switched from being a cigarette smoker to a pregnant woman. And she knows because she learned that smoking will harm that baby. And as a pregnant woman, she decided she is no longer a smoker. That became her identity. I don't smoke when I'm pregnant. Boom. She didn't say, I'm trying to quit. No, I don't smoke when I'm pregnant. Boom. Identity is another huge part of this. Identity helps us stick with this journey for the rest of our lives. Our identity is tightly linked to our purpose. All right. It's who we are, our values, our qualities, our beliefs. It's connecting who we want to be with what compels us as the woman God created us to be. It's connecting who we want to be with what compels us to become the woman God created us to be. It's not just about what we do. It's about who we are. It takes doing and makes it being. becomes who we are. So think of it this way. You're not just painting, you're a painter or you're an artist. There's a difference there. I'm not just painting, I am an artist. I'm not just running, I'm a runner. That's the difference between trying not to eat bad and like saying that. If someone says, oh, I'm trying not to be bad, I'm trying not to be bad. No, I'm going to try not to be bad. And the difference would be saying, I don't eat sugar or bread or highly processed foods or seed oils or whatever it is in the moment. Like, no, I don't eat tortilla chips anymore. That, because I couldn't figure out how to make not eating tortilla chips an identity. It's one thing to say painter and artist, runner and, running and runner. I don't know how you do that other than to say that, declare that declaration that I don't eat that. That's not who I am, So if you come up with an idea for that, I mean, I suppose you could really be obnoxious and be like, I'm a ketogenic, metabolically healthy person or something. But yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. But I can say, oh, I don't eat chips. They just don't love me as much as I love them. That's how I usually say it. Oh, I love dessert. It just doesn't love me back. So I'm not doing it. I don't do it. Like it's a very firm commitment to that. It's that determined decision that I am something or I'm not something. So let me wrap this up with asking, who do you want to be? What characteristics will you need to become her? As James Clear says in his book, Atomic Habits, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So how do you live this for the rest of your life? Well, it's a process, one day at a time, incorporating all the things we just talked about: connection, purpose, learning, future focus, and identity. Okay? So it's bringing all those things together, and that is how we do this. So I'm going to close this out, and then we're going to have some Q&A. Well, I'm probably not going to use this because I feel like I stumbled so much in the beginning. So I'm not going to use this later. If you guys are okay with it, I would love to record our conversation so I can get some feedback from you. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's okay if you don't want to.
I
know what you're playing.
Too much. I'll fix it later and record it again.
But no, that's good. It is about connection. Mm-hmm. And so what I got distracted a little bit because the dogs came in and barked, but as far as connection goes, did you provide like an answer to like, do we need to be more connected to help overcome the desire for connection? Do we move into finding ways to be more in a connected state?
Yeah,
with others?
I didn't go into specifics on how to be connected. I think that's a really good point to bring up. Yeah, I didn't go into specifics on that. I think if you can, if you have people around, so there's a few different ways to do it. You can literally have people in your tribe, in your community, people that you connect with that are living this, in your family, friends, or you can create a community online and have small groups such as this where you are connected and you are doing that and you're accountable. I didn't have that option when I first started this. So what I did is I made an other online, like I would go on YouTube and I would watch all these videos and I would learn and learn and learn. And because I didn't literally have that connection, even with those people, I decided this is how I'm going to feel connected to this so I don't feel alone. So I kind of, in my own mindset, just decided I am going to make sure I watch something on YouTube. I listen to a podcast. Like I kept that coming into me all the time. I kept reinforcing what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be by doing it that way because I didn't have a community. But I think a community is 100 times better, or having a coach working with me, working with you, working with someone who coaches people and helps them. We have other women in our in the Awaken Your Moxie community who are coaches. Tia is a coach. Christine Timp is a coach. I hope I said that right. Our health coaches. So connecting with someone, that way. Yeah. Does that help?
So connecting with people who have similar goals and desires
Yeah.
to, because I mean, we can connect with people in our community, but they
Yes.
don't have the same
Yes. That is the
desires.
caveat. I meant to say, yes, definitely. The connection is with people who are going to support this journey specifically. Yeah. And some people have in their family, and some people, their family are their antagonists, on this journey. And that's hard, but I think we have to also recognize that we're individually on a journey. My husband may not be on that journey right now, but and for 2 years he wasn't, but he is now, and so it just, sometimes it's taking that time to just keep living it yourself and not preaching at them and not telling them what they need to do. We just were laughing this morning having a conversation because I never told him like you shouldn't eat this or eat that. I would teach him what I was learning, and that knowledge and that learning really helped him wanting to get on board. And so he was joking this morning. He's like, I have gone, I forget how many days he said, without buying a whatchamacallit bar, because that's like his kryptonite is the whatchamacallit bars. And he's like, you know how bad I wanted one last night? I was driving, he was coming home late from a meeting and driving past the gas station, and he didn't get it, but it was just funny. I was like, oh, I'm glad that I have him as a partner in this right now. But I don't, though. I'm very careful not to lean on him because he's not as strong as me in it. And so he'll be like, yeah, let's cheat. So you got to know who you're partnering with. At least we can share it. But yeah, you want people that are going to help support you and uphold what you're doing. And again, none of this is going to be perfect. It's a messy journey, I feel like. And you're going to have seasons where you just nail it, for months at a time. And then if you go off track, it's reminding that's when all this comes into play, and reminding yourself, you know what? I'm on this for good. And yeah, I just went a little wackadoodle there off the thing for 4 or 5 days. Catching yourself, if you can catch yourself at day one, catch yourself that night. I've had to tell myself I don't have to wait till Mondays. I can start this journey on a Thursday night. And I think every woman in here understands what a weird concept that is, because you think if I blew it all morning Thursday, well, I'm going to just wait till Monday, but it's getting in a different mindset saying, no, that's not how I live anymore. In that decision, that's part of your identity. Part of my identity is now I don't live like that.
Yeah, that was a good part too. Like we step into the role of, no, that's not what I do. That's not what I eat. And stepping into that.
Yeah. And I try to,
that
like
was
I said,
good.
I try to soften it because I don't want it to come across as judgmental to anyone else. Just like, oh my goodness, I would love that, but I can't. It's not good for me. So I just don't eat it anymore, because when I do, I have all kinds of health issues. No one usually is going to balk at you for that. You know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, have it anyway. You're going to be sick, but eat this. They're not usually going to do that. So any
That's
thoughts,
good.
Michelle? What jumped out to you? Or if you have other ones, Shonda, you guys have any other input?
For me, just like being connected with this group and having you as the coach is what has been like, I think, helped me stay successful in this. Like before, I feel like it would just be like a month is how long I would stick with something. And I've been doing this since June, and it has been like an up and down journey here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I don't know, it's just felt so much easier for me this time sticking with it. And I think it's been the accountability group for sure.
So do you mind sharing some of your good news? Or like what you've lost and just your blood work and stuff?
Oh yeah, so I've lost 22 pounds since June, and then I just went and got blood work done because I'm trying to get pregnant. So she wanted to test hormones and stuff, and my insulin, she tested that and it's dropped in half from what it was.
That is
So that's huge.
yeah, that is
Congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you. So yeah, it's working.
yeah, that is great. And we don't talk a lot about insulin levels. It's not something you can just test at home like blood glucose levels. So, but that insulin number, and it's interesting because her blood glucose numbers weren't horrible, but
Nope.
her insulin was high. So insulin resistance was still a problem, even though her glucose levels weren't necessarily showing that, which is fascinating. And I'm just learning some of that science, but pretty cool.
hmm And what's the number that is it the glucose number that shows if you're like pre-diabetic? Yeah, that one, it's not there, but it's still like almost there. So that's a good reminder to me. Like, all right, I don't want to be pre-diabetic. So want to keep that number low.
Yeah, a lot of it's kind of a it's a bad way to say it, calling it pre-diabetic, because even at pre-diabetic levels are we're internal organs are being damaged even
Yeah.
at those levels. And you know, we think our mind goes like, oh, I'm pre-diabetic, I just need to be careful or I'll be diabetic. No, even at the pre-diabetic level, it can be causing organ damage. So
That was the other one that my liver numbers were better too.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how the numbers of fatty non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that can be reversed completely with diet, no medications. Just it's amazing what we can do to our bodies just by not poisoning them, you know, I mean, basically. So yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I don't know what this lady was doing, but I was at a memorial service this past weekend, and there was a lady there that I was introduced to with this other um, a health coach that she's an RN. She's no longer working in the medical field, but using her RN skills for health now.
Cool.
And she introduced me to her grandmother. Her grandmother is 91 years old and is not on any medication at all, none whatsoever, at 91 years old. And so I was really inspired
Yeah.
and thought, wow, if that's possible for her, it's possible for me.
Right.
And so I thought that was,
what she does eat, you know, how does
yeah, I'm not sure what all she eats. I know she's not on a sugar grain diet. I know that because, you know, her name is Jennifer. She's very much, you know, that, and then um health stuff. So yeah, she's
that's great.
even supplements, and she even compounded her own supplements and stuff that she's gotten compounded that she now sells. And so that was just like really,
That's
yeah,
cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. And that would be actually something to just share real quick. A lot of times I get asked, and I didn't share this in any of the other videos, I don't think, about supplements or what I take. So everyone again is different, but there are a few things across the board that are pretty standard that most of us need. Magnesium. That is one, magnesium glycinate. There are several different kinds of magnesium. I do have a sheet on that. Maybe I'll throw that into the files in the group. Like I know magnesium citrate can cause you, you know, you may end up in the bathroom a lot if you take too much of that. But magnesium glycinate, if it's is, I believe, is chelated, and like I think you can only get it chelated, but I'm not sure. But if not, definitely get chelated, which is CHELATED, chelated magnesium glycinate. It's good for your nervous system. It's good for, there are so many health benefits to magnesium. So I really highly recommend that. It's good for sleep. It's there, it just helps with so many things. And then I also take zinc every day. again, a chelated version of that. And by chelated, the whole point of that is that it absorbs better. It's a better absorption for your body. So you're actually getting the benefits of it. A lot of times, if you're buying like multivitamins and cheap vitamins and supplements, a lot of times there's just no even absorption that makes any difference for you. So those are important. Zinc is important. Vitamin D3 is important. Yeah, those are the main ones that I focus on, are those three that almost everybody could benefit from. And then the rest is going to be dialing it in. I take a vitamin K2. That's something due to my age and things like that, that they say are really good for women, menopausal women with bone health and stuff like that. And oh, and then I take a vitamin B complex, and I get that from Pure, is the name brand, Pure. I get all mine on Amazon, and I just get them regularly delivered. But yeah, the vitamin B is good also for your nervous system and for a lot of good. So I know I kind of off the top of my head, I'm like, they're good for you. I don't have all the list in front of me of why.
If it helps back you up, the magnesium, the zinc, and vitamin D with K2 are all three that Dr. Susan put me on. So
Good. Yeah, Michelle actually attends the doctors that I work with locally here. As those are her doctors, that's how she found me. They sent her to me, and they do a lot with metabolic health, with nutrition, and focusing on natural ways instead of just jumping to meds right away. So yeah, cool. That's good to know.
good.
Anything else? Any other thoughts or questions or ideas?
Well, it's good, to keep learning, so to know that there's, having that understanding. I like the example that you used about, your mom, she knew that you don't do that when you're pregnant. And so that was her choice. So if we come into understanding of why we don't do that as a lifestyle, not just for a season, like she didn't do that through her pregnancy, but, the same with each of us. Why do we do this? And maybe have that understanding, this is causing damage. And then like I shared at one time, I started seeing that little childhood thing that was popular when I was a child, that Mr. Yuck, that little green face with the tongue sticking out. I just started seeing that image on certain foods and realizing that that is poison to me, and started looking at it as that poison. Just like you mentioned, would we drink the antifreeze? No, we wouldn't drink the antifreeze because we know, they say it's really sweet, and that's why pets are attracted to it. We've had pets get into antifreeze and die from it. So I get that.
Yeah.
So I've seen that happen, because they didn't know, and it just tastes good. And so they drank it up. And so I love that analogy.
Yeah, knowledge is just, it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
yeah, I think that's what's helped me a lot too, is learning, just because I see things that I used to like and now they just look disgusting.
Yeah, I know. And it's not that I don't still have cravings, but what feels good is that I've made progress to where, like I said, I can look down the little Debbie aisle at Nutty Butter, whatever, Nutty Bars or whatever. That is not even a temptation to me, not one bit, because I'm like, oh, I would not put that in my body, because I know all the chemicals. I know how bad it is for me. There's other things, I don't want to like trigger anybody, but there's other things that I struggle harder with, because I'm like, well, I know that's a higher quality. I know that they use real butter. I know, you know what I mean? So it's not that it's not there, but then the more knowledge I get, the more I can easily stand against those cravings, because I see how, no, that really is a problem. Even though, like I said, I think occasionally if you can do something and have something that's indulgent and you can walk away, the issue is, can you walk away? And how far is it going to take you off track? Are you like, okay, then the next day I just kind of feel crummy and I just get right back on the wagon and I'm good. And a lot of people are like that. But if you're like, no, the next day, then it's like my head is just screaming at me, all these cravings, and I really struggle. And a lot of times I don't do well, then it's not good. But one thing, like you mentioned about the smoking, what I thought is so interesting, because I read that in this book, The Molecule of More. This is really powerful. If you are a sugar addict and you know, like, this is a serious addiction for me, I need help, this book is really helpful. But it just really hit me when I read that about the smoking, like, you know, because they say willpower is not enough. Like your willpower, you can be strong on something for a while, but ultimately you're going to probably tire that muscle of willpower and you're going to cave in. So it has to be deeper. And that's a woman who gets pregnant, who is a full-on cigarette smoker, it's deeper because it brought in identity, it brought in empathy for that forming baby. And when we can then see ourselves, so how do we transition that into us, would be like going, okay, understanding first of all at a cellular level what these foods are doing to us, the damage that it's actually causing, and how that's going to affect my life and the lives of others. Now, I have to love myself to care that much. I have to value myself. So this is such an internal work. It is so far beyond just losing weight, you know, or going on a diet. This is about really learning. And that I put a video in the Awaken Your Moxie community yesterday that I did. I had a speaking engagement and I came home and I was like, I'm going to record this for this group because this message, I could tell how impactful it was to the women. And we need to understand and, you know, learn how to love ourselves, how to love that little girl in us that is hurting, how to get past the you know, traumas of our childhood, things like that. Those all affect how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves. And so this is a huge healing process, really, when you think about it. If you struggle with any addiction, it's a huge healing process. And I Gabor Mate says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. That's powerful, you know. And then I have a little note here. If addiction is an attempt to solve a problem, what is the problem and how did it arise? What's the pain? Where'd it come from? And healing that. Those are all the things that a diet doesn't do. You know, you are then just working on willpower. This is much, much deeper. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So it's really doing that inner work, the inner searching work. I just remember that sometime this past week, I did wake up from a dream and I told my husband I had a nightmare and he goes, a nightmare? What was your dream? I said, it felt so real. And I felt so, I felt so bad and what it was. And I woke up from this dream of, I was eating something like a honey bun. I don't know if that's what it was. I'm not even a honey bun person. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know what I was eating, but it was something really high sugar like that. And I woke up feeling like I had did that the night before. And now I have to start again, as you say, start again. And I was even thinking, and, you know, and I don't recommend this. I don't know this is for everyone, but I was like, do I still have some instant ketones to help me reset? Yeah. And that's what I was even thinking about was, do I have some instant ketones? And it was like, yeah. And I'm waking up. I did. I felt it as if I had actually done it. Yeah. And so that frightened me. Mm-hmm. And so my husband was like, Mom, is that such a big deal? And I'm like, no, it was a big deal to me. Yeah. To feel like that I got out of that zone. Mm-hmm. and would be starting again, knowing that it would take work to get back there again. Right. And I'm like, I didn't want to start over. So it was powerful. It was really like, because it felt real.
Yeah.
It felt real. And like I had actually done it. I'm like, wait, I didn't.
I know, like, oh, I mean, oh,
I was like,
how
so
good did
really,
that feel?
like, okay, I didn't do that.
Yeah, that is funny. Well, I've read too about how just the power of really thinking through how it would feel if you blew it and how you like how it feels. And it's the feeling that's so powerful, you know, and that's an avoidant factor. Then that's we don't want to feel that. And so
Right, feeling that heaviness, that blah, the brain fog, all
wow.
the irritability. So I, all those feelings were there in that dream. So yeah, I just
That is good. That is really interesting. I've not woken up from that dream, but I know what you mean. Like you wake up and then you're so relieved that it's not real, you know?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I was. And then that's not even something I would
Yeah, that's
prepackaged food is not something. So like you talk about going down the aisle, I the prepackaged desserts is not my temptations.
no.
And so
But for
so
you, for me, it at one time,
uh,
years ago, it had been, you know, especially when I had kids home and you buy that stuff and um it feels good that that's not, you know, and I think I hope that's hope to everybody to know, you know, there I am going to get past that. I'm going to get past that feeling of, oh, I'm so drawn to that, you know, or even like the donut shops in town. I had shared before how that was always so hard for me because I loved donuts, but now all I can think of, it's not even the sugar now that I think about. I think about the what it's fried in, what they're fried, and knowing how bad that seed oil is for us. I mean, I've been reading some things and seed oils are almost worse for us than the sugar. It's so bad for our bodies. And it's causing so much heart problems and things like that. You know, I mean, it's just, it's dangerous and cancers, like it's bad. So again, you know, it's learning and growing because for years I couldn't go by without stopping, you know. I must need gas, pull in. So
well, that was powerful too. I think it was last week you shared about the you were talking about the seed oil and the French fries and how that was as bad as nicotine to us. And I don't remember exactly what you said, but I guess I had not thought of it before, sneaking a little fry here or a little fry there, that, hey, it's a potato, that's okay. But once you explain the
yeah.
how it's fried, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, they say
yeah.
basically for those who didn't hear it, it's fry for cigarette, same amount of damage to your body. One fry, one cigarette. Like, oh man, that's bad, you know, but the same level of damage. Yeah, and of course that's been in the news lately with Trump having gone to McDonald's and then um RFK talking about trying to get them to cook with beef tallow again instead of the vegetable oils. Well, that would be interesting. I'm not saying I'd jump on eating French fries again, just because the potatoes for me are probably a slippery slope. But
Me too.
you know, but it's gonna be good overall for the health of many, many people. So that's
I'm
good.
so
Right.
excited about Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again movement.
I am too. He's been working with Callie and Casey Means and a lot of great people. And I really hope that it feels like it was watching that in Washington DC when they had that big meeting. It was like finally, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like almost like I'm gonna be validated. Like what we're saying is true. This is true. The science is showing it. The doctors are showing it. But boy, you know, I'm on Twitter. That's probably where I get. That's probably my most popular social media for me because I like to follow news, and there's certain people that I really like to listen to on there and follow. And it was interesting to see the backlash of that. And I mean, because these companies are powerful and strong and big and in control, and like, wow, it's just crazy. But Callie means Casey's brother, he worked for Coca-Cola. So he understands that whole marketing and how they have, controlled the market for so long. It's fascinating, really. It really is.
It really is. And I was listening, I don't listen to him a whole lot. I haven't listened to a lot of his messages, but Kevin Zadai, I don't know if you've ever listened to him.
Oh, is he the, I don't know. No, I'm thinking of Evan.
But I remember one time him sharing about here in the United States where he lives, can't eat these carbs and high grain, the grains and the sugars and stuff. But when he travels overseas to Germany, he can have, or France, he can have those foods there, and it doesn't have the same reaction to him as it does in the United States. And so until I heard him say that, I thought this was like a worldwide issue,
Yeah.
but I see that perhaps it's not.
It's a Western. It really,
it's
bad.
yes.
I mean, that's what they're like. Oh, I go and I eat bread and they're on glucose monitors, and they're like, it's not spiking me. It's not. I mean, I think it still affects them to some extent, but they don't get sick like they would here. I mean, it is amazing, and it's because they have outlawed so many of the chemicals that are in our food, that are allowed in our food, are outlawed in European nations. And and so that's what they're fighting for, not to control what people eat. Like, I agree that we shouldn't say no one can have pop, no one can have soda. I don't agree with that. I think we should be able to make those choices for ourselves, but I also don't think that, like, if Kellogg's can make all these cereals without all these chemicals for Europe, make them here so that our kids, though that wouldn't be the breakfast I would choose for them, but at least they're not getting all those chemicals.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard not to think that there's a link between that and the huge rise in ADD and autism and all these, situations.
Very much so. But I also remember it was back in 2006, so it's been a long time, when I went on a short-term mission trips. I went to Cameroon, Africa, and I remember over there with part of the team that met us there, we had two ladies that went with us everywhere we went in Cameroon, and they cooked for us, and we ate fresh food every day. And so for the 14 days that we were over there, we had fresh meat. I mean, the chicken that we ate that night for dinner was running around that morning outside the hotel. I mean, I'm saying it was fresh. And so we ate that way for 14 days. Then I remember landing in Houston, Texas, and the first thing we saw was a Taco Cabana. I don't know if y'all have Taco Cabanas, but it's just like a fast food Mexican place. All right. So anyhow, we ate that food up on landing, and on the van drive home, we were all getting sick from after 14 days of eating healthy in Cameroon, Africa, landing, eating that high greasy, high fat, carb loaded Mexican food.
Yeah.
We were getting sick. Well, I mean, the van was having to pull over for us so we could. I mean, yeah. So I remember that now. So some things are coming back to my memory as we're talking. But having been in another country, eating clean, and then coming back and landing and eating that and getting so sick. And it took, I guess we kind of chalked it up to jet lag and all that other kind of stuff, crossing the time zones and all that other stuff, that I was sick for several days after getting back.
I had E. coli or something. Your body was like,
wow. So yeah, but so it was from eating natural and coming back and eating processed foods right away.
I'm sure that the oil had a lot to do with it. And that's, And if I have something that had, like, if I were to take a bite, even of a fried cheese curd or something, if we were at a bar, like getting bar food, and I had something deep fried, and I've done it, I would be sick right away. An onion ring, I'm out. Like, it's just, my stomach hurts terrible. It's just amazing when you get clean of that, when you get free of that stuff. And I'll say, when I then, sugar doesn't just do that to me. Like, I can have sweets, and if I have too much, I'm gonna get sick. But I can have a little bit of sweet, and it's not going to make me sick. Even grains and sugar, a little bit. If I have a bite of a muffin or a half a muffin or something, I'm going to be fine. But if I have just a little bit of something deep fried at one of those restaurants, I am sick. Like, it's bad. And so that, to me alone, tells me this stuff is dangerous.
Right. It is. And so I haven't had reactions to, because sometimes I forget to ask them to leave the croutons off of the salads when I order the chicken Caesar or whatever.
Yep.
I forget to ask them. So I'm scraping all the croutons off, but sometimes there's one that gets hidden in there. I haven't had a reaction to those. So I'm like, all right, so that little bite didn't, set me, I didn't feel it. Like that one time I went and ordered eggs, and I had ordered an omelet. And when I got done eating that omelet, I'm like, I hadn't even finished the omelet, and I'm already having a reaction. And my husband's like, oh, you're that sensitive. And so I asked them what they put in it. And that's when I learned they put pancake batter in the omelet to make it fluffy. and I'm like, I didn't know to ask that.
Right. Yeah.
So
you learned.
Yeah, I learned then. I was like, I didn't want that. I ordered the omelet so I could have eggs and vegetables. I didn't want the pancake batter.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think the older we get, our bodies have been through so much, I mean, I don't know, Michelle, you're probably a little more bulletproof than we are.
I don't know. I get headaches really easily.
Yeah.
So I can tell, like, just when something affects me, I get a headache.
Yeah. I feel like I could eat poorly through my 30s. It didn't really get me. It wasn't until I hit my 40s, and then definitely when I hit my 50s, it was like, oh, it's really catching up with me. But I had been, I just think of the damage that I was doing for so long. So
see, that's what I quit.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, I'm just question that, like, so people in their 20s and 30s, because like you said, we're not recognizing it till we're older. Is it the metabolism that's able to handle it better, the immune system and the metabolism, but it's just getting weary as we get older, and it's not able to protect us as well? I don't know. I'm just making that up. I don't know.
I've heard that type 2 diabetes, so that would be insulin resistance, is a 20-year disease. It takes about 20 years of eating poorly, although that was before things got our food was so bad. Now we're seeing kids with fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which this is new in the last 10 years that we're seeing small, children getting it. But they're literally only living on processed foods, whereas us growing up, it used to be like about 20 year, because that was how much processed food was in our diet. The more processed food in our diet, the more it's degrading our gut health, our microbiome, all that stuff. So I think it's right now, some of us who are older still for a while had halfway decent food that we were eating for a while, but it's catching up exponentially now.
Okay.
So, but I always think of, like, being younger, your body does bounce back faster in so many different ways. And but yeah, everyone's different,
Yeah.
So well, good. Well, this has been a good chat. I hope that everybody even watching later enjoys. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear back too from you once in the comment section of where this is posted. And again, this will be a recording just for our group. And then I may record some of the information a little bit later for the other group. So just to fast forward what we're doing next Thursday, a week from today, is the 31st. Crazy. I'm going to really encourage you to think ahead about Halloween. Prepare yourself. If I don't know if some of you it won't even affect because you won't be around anything. But if you work in an office, you've got kids in school. If you know, there's going to be those temptations out there, and just really think to yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? November 1st is coming. Do I want to? November 1st, will I be glad that I didn't partake in a handful or 3 or 4 of Reese's peanut butter cups, you know?
Right. I mean,
So-
because places you go, I mean, I was at a place doing business the other day, they have candy sitting out and, you know, it was Milky Way and Sneakers. I mean, they had the good candy. I'm like, the little bite-sized
Yeah.
candies. I'm like, yep, those would have in my past days, I would have
Me too.
taken one right out of the dish, sitting right there on the counter, you know, at that business. And, so yeah, it's out there.
Yeah. Well, I think Michelle and I talked about too, because I have actually a bunch of candy in my house because I had to get some for my granddaughter's school there. And so, but I haven't opened it. And we were talking, I think Michelle and I were talking about the power of an unopened bag. How once it's opened, you're in trouble, you know, because you can just go grab the little bitty pieces and it's the Costco bags, you know, so it's huge, but don't open it. You know, if that's the case and it's in your house, then just don't have that first open, you know, whatever it takes, you know yourself what is best. But so anyways, I am going to really focus during November and December. I am going to more actively focus on in the Awaken Your Moxie community on encouraging health and good choices, and really focus on not derailing over the holidays. So if most of you, I think, are a part of that group already, just make sure you can put in there that you want to see all the posts, you know, that way you'll make sure you don't miss any and you'll get that constant encouragement. I will really be focusing in that group on not just food, but on going through the holidays and family situations and the stresses and all the things that we face through the holidays, and then some fun and enjoying it. And I may do some lives or some videos and Zoom in there, but I'm going to focus it all in the Awaken Your Moxie group instead of doing a whole separate holiday group, which I was considering kind of back and forth, but I really want that big group to be a part of it. And I'm hoping more people get involved if we do that. So then maybe after the first year, we'll do something more specific in a smaller setting. So, and if anytime anybody wants to get a hold of me, you guys are in this group. And I had, said that I would definitely coach one-on-one. Let me know, get with me if we're not already doing that, so we can connect and talk. And if you have anything, reach out. In the meantime, we'll just keep supporting one another, and we don't go off the rails come, November 1st. We're gonna remember this is a journey of a lifetime. And that's what this is all about. Is it may not be it might be messy sometime, but we are back on this journey. It's a journey you're not walking off of ever again, I hope. All right. Have a great day, ladies.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.